I would venture to say that a lot of people, when they first study the Talmud, or even if they've been studying it for a while, might not even know that demons pop up occasionally in its pages. So today we are super lucky to have Dr. Sarah Roach. She's one of the world's experts on the topic of demons in the Talmud.
I examine how the Babylonian rabbis think about demons really differently. Right? It turns out if we ask, how does this one specific group who is so important to modern Judaism, how do they think about demons? First, I want to show you how the rabbis integrate demons into the world of rabbinic law. By integrating them into the rabbinic legal system, they become all kinds of interesting players in the rabbinic legal system, leading me to, I don't know, do something awesome. Are you hearing feedback?
I'm working on it.
Okay, totally fine. One, the rabbis think demons are real. They're not a metaphor for something, right? This is a real demon with a real ear. Two, demons have bodies, right? This demon has an ear. And this demon is three-dimensional, but presumably, at least in part, invisible. They are imagining a world in which demons are part of the community. The rabbis believe in a world with lots of different kinds of intermediary beings, right? Beings that are more powerful than humans and less powerful than God. And so that world has all kinds of different beings in it who are not the same. Actually, in the Talmud, Satan or Satan is much more connected oftentimes with angels than demons.
People do seem to be remarking on how much the demons are in some ways like people in terms of their ethics. They carry money, they can chat, but they're also invisible, but you can also have a conversation with the demon, or at least the rabbi can.
Which raises this question, so then are the rabbis imagining a world in which demons are really part of the rabbinic legal system? But here's one thing the rabbis never do. They never excommunicate a non-Jew. Why not? Literally in the English world, in the English word excommunicate is kick somebody out of the community that they are a part of. So here, when Marbar of Ashi bans the demon, he tells us, well, this demon was a part of the community. And presumably, right, we get a sense that the demon says, I want to be a part of this community, right? I want to be a part of this community. So here too, we get a sense that the rabbis are creating law that applies to demons because demons are part of their community. So as hopefully we've started to see, integrating demons, letting demons be controlled by rabbinic law also changes a little bit what it means to be a demon. Because demons, absolutely, we saw already in the first text, demons can be dangerous, harmful, and even deadly, right? If you provoke demons, right, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. But as we've also seen in this text, demons can also be members of the community in good standing and who want to be part of the community. And in one text, maybe even rabbis themselves. Joseph the demon, who is a demon and a rabbinic informant. So here we have a Rabbi Papa, quoting a demon in the exact same way that he quotes his own rabbinic teachers. Now, I also want to point out something else. Very often, demons, when we think about demons in the ancient world, they have names that translate to things like sloth, gluttony, lust, wrath, right? In lots of different cultures at this time, demons' names translate to negative characteristics. This demon's name is Joseph. This is another sign that the rabbis absolutely believe in demons and also think demons are not wrath and lust and sloth and gluttony and all of those. And in fact, right, I think what we see is at the end of this narrative, that the demon's teaching gets put into practice and serves the test of time. So we have this demon who's teaching a rabbi something, which then becomes integrated into the rabbinic tradition. I want to share another one of my favorites with you. And this is from Bavli Eruvin 43a, because if you could teach one rabbi, why not teach all of them? So who was it that taught 7 legal traditions on a Sabbath morning to Rav Chizda at Surah, oh, ignore the typos, and on the same Sabbath evening to Rabbah at Pumbedita, which is a 40-hour walk. And just for context, the Sabbath is 25 hours. So there's no way to get from one to the other in the same Sabbath. But apparently the rabbis have a tradition that one person taught 7 legal teachings in both places on the same Shabbat. It is possible that the demon Joseph delivered them. That many people When we think somebody teaching Torah, we think rabbi, expert, very least human being. And here the rabbis are saying, well, maybe this guy teaching a class on something is Joseph the demon. Yeah, which is delightful, I think, because demons can, for the rabbis, can move rapidly in the places in the blink of an eye. So at this point, hopefully what you've seen is that the rabbis integrate demons into rabbinic law. And when they do that, they turn demons into beings that could be subject to the rabbis and rabbinic courts and could also participate in the rabbinic community as informants and as teachers. But they're not just subordinated to rabbis. So in this one story, the one that we've been sort of talking around, the hierarchy is actually overturned and the demon becomes greater than the ultimate Torah scholar, King Solomon. So this is a story that centers on a demon named Ashmedai. We're going to see that the rabbinic depiction of him is really, really rabbinic. So let's take a look at it. And I didn't bring you the whole text. I'll tell the story. And I'll tell the story, and I brought only some relevant pieces. We learn that Solomon builds the temple and doesn't use any metal implements when he does. So the Talmud asks a super practical question, which is, right, like, how do you hew all of these giant stones without anything sharp? And the Talmud answers the question by telling a story where Solomon lived at the same time as the Sanhedrin, the high rabbinic court in Jerusalem. And he is looking for this mythical stone cutting thing called a shamir. And he doesn't know where it is, because he wants to build the temple. He needs this shamir. So he asks a couple of demons. He says, they say, I don't know. I'm so sorry. We don't know where the shamir is. But you know who does know is Ashmedai, prince of the demons. He definitely knows where it is. And so he says, great, thank you so much. Where can I find Ashmedai? They said to him, and this is what's on your slide, he is in such and such a place, right? He's over there. So they say, okay, how am I going to know? How will I recognize it? And the demons respond, I'm going to read this word for word. He has dug a well and filled it with water and covered it with a large flint rock and sealed it with his seal. Okay, so Ashmedai literally spends his days learning Torah. Because he's a demon and he sort of is in this intermediate space, he can go up or down as the case may be. And over the course of that story, Ashmedai shows that he can quote biblical verses, he follows Jewish law, he recognizes God as his only master, and to be honest, he has more insight into human nature, reality, fate, and biblical interpretation than the humans in the story, including King Solomon. Ashmedai said to Solomon, remove the chains from me and give me your ring, and I will show you my greatness, as Solomon do. Solomon removed the chain from him and gave him his ring. Ashmedai then takes over the throne. And while Ashmedai eventually loses the throne, the rabbis disagree about whether or not Solomon was ever able to take his throne back. So here we have this ultimate wise king, right? Solomon built the temple, who is outsmarted by Ashmedai. Ashmedai, who, to be clear, studies Torah, seems to be pretty Jewishly engaged. But I mean, what an interesting depiction of Ashmedai. Because again, if demons can be part of the rabbinic system, but we also know that they have these connections to the divine world, well, could they actually out-rabbi the rabbis? This story seems to suggest, actually, maybe. Oh, yeah. So here's the thing, right? Here's what we're seeing so far. Once demons are part of the halachic system, they have the freedom to excel within it according to the same metrics as rabbis, right? Torah knowledge, religious authority, kingship. And I've seen no parallels, by the way, to this in Christian texts, Zoroastrian texts, or Muslim texts from the same time. So the rabbis are doing this thing that seems to really be the rabbis. They're not getting it from some other group. So to some extent, we might want to think about them as rabbinic enforcers. But I said I would end by talking about exorcism, and I want to make sure we get a couple of minutes to talk about exorcism. So this is the only story in the Talmud about exorcism. And for context, there's this whole story where an unnamed Roman emperor decrees that Jews are forbidden to keep the Sabbath and some other stuff. So a small group of rabbis journey to Rome to beg the emperor to reconsider his decree. Next. So as they journey to Rome, they meet a fella named Ben Talamion. Ben Talamion went out to greet them. He said to them, do you want me to go with you? Rabbi Shimon cried and said, may a miracle occur. Sure. Ben Talamion went ahead and entered the body of the emperor's daughter. When Rabbi Shimon arrived there, he said, Ben Talamion, leave. Ben Talamion, leave. And when they called him, he came out and left. The emperor said to them, ask for whatever you want and go into the treasure house and take whatever you want. They went and found the letter on which the decrees were written. They took it and ripped it up. Okay, so this text doesn't tell us that Ben Talamion is a demon, but there are a couple of clues, right? So first of all, the fact that he can travel large distances in the blink of an eye, he can go ahead. Second of all, the name lead is basically the ancient cross-religious exorcism formula for demons, right? Much like you might think about today if you've seen any movies, right? The power of X compels you. This was the phrase back then. And then finally, the Ender is the body of the emperor's daughter. But what the rabbis are doing here is literally performing an exorcism, right? Ben Talamion isn't an attacker. He's an ally. He's a member of the community who offers to help. And the only reason they do a possession / exorcism is as a performance, right? It's not real. It's being staged so that they can save the Jews, right? Ben Talamion is essentially helping the rabbis perpetuate Jewish beliefs and traditions in the face of a hostile Roman emperor. And that's remarkable. So I want to end by just pointing out that for the rabbis, what we're seeing here is a real shift in how they think about demons that is deeply connected, I would argue, actually to their theology, right? So they don't really have another choice. And I think when they do that, they model for us that with a little legal ingenuity, sometimes the spookiest creatures out there can actually become our friends. They sound delightful.
Well, somewhat.
I mean, I don't know. In some ways. And I want to be clear, right? Like, sometimes good things are scary, right? Being scary, being powerful aren't themselves signs that you're evil.